In our gospel today, I wonder if the apostles thought Jesus was going a little wacky. So there's this huge crowd, I mean huge. Everyone is bumping everyone. It's hard to move even at your own pace. And yet Jesus asks, "Who touched me?" It reminds me of that favorite car ride game on long trips that kids like to play. You know, the one where you've been on the road for like an hour and you have a long way to go, and suddenly you hear from the back seat, "Mom, he touched me! Stay off me! He's on my side! Now he's looking at me, Mom!" I'm sure you've heard that before. You see, I did that well because I'm the youngest in my family, so I was the one saying that. Of course, you know that I'm just being silly, because Mark tells us that Jesus knew that power had gone out from him, but the apostles didn't. They didn't know what happened. They could have been like, "Yo, dude, what's wrong with you? I mean, everyone's touching you." Today, our gospel passage is called an intercalation, or a Markan sandwich. What this means is that Mark interweaves one story with another. So you notice the gospel begins with Jairus, has the woman with the hemorrhages, and then it ends with Jairus. So you have two pieces of bread and the hemorrhage story in the center. That's why it's called a Markan sandwich. Mark uses this literary device as a way to show his listeners the irony in events. Do you see the ridiculousness and the depth of faith of this woman? "If I but touch his clothes, I shall be cured," she thought. How many of us walk up to communion expecting the host, the actual body of Christ, to heal us of something? I personally believe it's possible, but unlikely. And she just wanted to touch his clothes, and she was certain that she would be healed. She clearly has a deeper faith than the average person, and deeper than mine. For a Jew, she is in a constant state of ritual impurity, and there is the assumption, because she is hemorrhaging, that she cannot have children. And we know that barrenness is often seen as a curse or punishment from God. She is thinking, "Jesus will bless me if I touch his clothes." Do we see the reception of the Eucharist as God blessing me, or Mass is almost over? The irony in these events is that faith comes in desperation. I'm at my wit's end. That's when I show my need for God. There are no atheists in foxholes, as they say. And I find this Markan sandwich kind of makes me sad. It raises the questions in my own heart. Why is it human nature that we turn to God when nothing else seems to be working? Why are there no atheists in foxholes? Why can't our faith be strong and deep and used when life is going well? Why do we turn to God when we're in trouble and not worry so much when life is peachy? Now, I'm not saying that the woman with the hemorrhage or Jairus did this. I'm aware that this is a judgment, and it really has no basis in the scriptures today. She clearly was a deeply devout person, but the way this sandwich works is to show the irony between the two stories. Another irony is that Jairus was a respected synagogue leader with enough prestige to invite Jesus into his home. And yet Jairus is now in the position of being enlightened by this woman, by this woman's faith, who is an outcast of society. But look at the episodes individually. She was ashamed of her condition, It made her ritually unclean in Jewish society. She had to constantly wash and clean herself in anything she touched. But she risks touching Jesus. And Jairus' 12-year-old daughter is at the point of death. He says, "Please come lay your hands on her that she may get well and live." Jairus has come to Jesus in need, just as the woman did. Jairus wants Jesus to touch his daughter, and the woman wants to touch Jesus. And notice that Jesus didn't ridicule or put down either of them. He calls her daughter and sends her away, praising her faith after he heals her. And then Jairus gets word that his daughter had died, and yet he still accompanies Jesus. He keeps faith too. You know, one of our parish goals was to make active disciples. Another was to promote full, conscious, and active participation in the Mass. People who use their faith and engage with God, even when life is perfect and happy. Discipleship isn't just for when life is hard. It's not simply a Sunday occasion. It's not waiting for trouble on the horizon, and that's when God is important and needed. I'd like to conclude with a story called the Moso bamboo tree. The moso is a bamboo plant that grows in China in the Far East. After the moso is planted, no visible growth occurs for up to 5 years, even under ideal circumstances. Then, as if by magic, it suddenly begins growing at the rate of nearly 2.5 feet per day, reaching a full height of 90 feet within 6 weeks. But it's not magic. The moso's rapid growth is due to the miles and miles of roots it develops during those first 5 years. 5 years of getting ready, practicing full, conscious, and active participation in the Mass, and forming ourselves as disciples are the years and years of hard work that we put in that goes unseen. So that when life sends us storms, and it will, we already have a deep foundation that is laid on solid ground. It's not just a parish goal, it's also good for our well-being. So let us stand now and profess our faith. I believe in one God,